Hi, my name is Alan Lamont, and this message is called the Jesuit Global Conspiracy. I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland, and this message is really going to be about the Jesuits. And you will find on the internet that there's a complete blackout of information connecting the Jesuits and the Vatican to the New World Order. And men who write on the Great Conspiracy, the NWO, that is out to control the New World Order, never really mention the Vatican. And if they do, they make the Vatican out to be the target of disinformation rather than the originator of the New World Order conspiracy. Now, times have certainly changed towards the attitude of the Jesuits, even by Protestant Christian denominations. The word Jesuit used to conjure up fear and terror, but times have changed. If you mention the word Jesuit, most people have no idea who the Jesuits are. And if they do, they just think they're a branch of the Vatican, like the Dominicans, or just another Vatican order, really. And that's about it, really. So, the Jesuits really were banned from countries like China and, Europe. For almost 30 years in China, they were banned. And, they have tremendous power and influence. I mean, former President Richard Nixon, used the Jesuit to write his speeches. But you don't really hear anything about the Jesuits regarding the New World Order. And there's a complete blackout of that information by people that, talk about Zionism controlling the New World Order and so on, and Freemasonry. And so what I'm going to do in this audio is just give information on the Jesuits and, really why I believe that the Jesuits, do control the New World Order. And like I say, most people haven't heard of the Jesuits. And if they do, they just think, there's just no way that the Society of Jesus, the Jesuit order, could control the whole, global conspiracy, the NWO. So I'm going to explain why I believe that and give information regarding the subject. And you can make up your own mind after this audio, and you can do your own research if you want to. But at least you can have information regarding this, because there's not a lot of it on the internet. There's not a lot, and you'll find that. Now, in American politics and even in the ecumenical movement in the Christian world, especially in the United States, there's a lot of respectability surrounds the working of the Jesuits. So I'm going to explain really who the Jesuits are so you can understand their organisation. Now, what most people do not realise is that the Jesuits are the CIA of the Vatican. That is, just as Washington often seems to conflict with and disavow some of the covert activities of the CIA, especially when, they're going to prove embarrassing, so the Vatican from time to time will appear to disavow of the covert activities of the Jesuits. When in actual fact, the Jesuit order deals in counterintelligence, clandestine black operations, and they are, as I've said, they are what I would call the CIA of the Vatican. They're an intelligence organisation. They are also a military organisation, and they, of course, have the front cover of being, a Christian organisation when they're anything but that. So the CIA of the papacy are without doubt the Jesuits, and they are working day and night to further the goal of global one world government. Their zeal and their persistence is, great, and as I've said, there's a lot of respectability now surrounding the Jesuits, and people don't really know who the Jesuits are. They're intrigues, and they're intelligence organisations which covers the entire planet, and people need to be aware of who they are. Now, I do need to go back into history a little bit here, because otherwise there'll be no understanding of the Jesuit order. Now, during the Reformation, Martin Luther was used by God. He was used to set forth the liberating doctrine of justification by faith. That is, in the finished work of Christ at Calvary. And, the Reformation dealt a death blow to the Roman Catholic Church. For this great biblical doctrine destroys completely the whole sacramentarian, good works, priestly enterprise known as Roman Catholicism. And since the time of Luther, the Roman institution has been working day and night to overthrow Bible Protestantism and return what they call separated brethren, that is, Christian mainline denominations, as in Methodist, Baptist, Pentecostals, Presbyterians, Calvinists, and so on, and they call us separated brethren. and they want to bring us back to the one true fold. And, you know, the Society of Jesus was founded on this principle, founded by Ignatius Loyola, and, you know, they were created to be what's called the Counter-Reformation. That is to counter the Reformation, to destroy the Reformation. And, you know, it didn't work for a long, long time, so they really took the road of infiltration. And they infiltrated many, you know, separate brethren, as they believe, which is not true, obviously. And they infiltrated Protestant universities, Bible colleges, and brought about what's called the ecumenical movement. And they are really known as the Counter-Reformation. So that's just a little bit of history about who the Jesuits really are and why they were created. Now, this is a known fact. This is not my theories. This is a historical fact that the Jesuits are famous in history for their conspiracies. And I won't name the nations, but, you know, in England and France, I mean, all over Europe. And, you know, they're famous for their intrigues, assassinations, and their undying hatred for Protestant Reformation. And they are, as I've said, the Counter-Reformation. And they seek by every means, you know, legal or illegal, to overthrow and undo the work of the glorious Protestant Reformation. Now, you find a lot on the internet that if you actually align yourself and, you know, with the Jesuits in the context of saying that they are really in control of the New World Order and the Vatican controls the one world government, it's a severe blow to credibility. I mean, you know, people just think you're no longer credible, and, you know, you're just, you know, they call you a disinformation agent and so on. And there's a lot of, you know, heat comes from people, really, and you have to be prepared for that. I get that a lot, and it just, you know, it just goes over my head, really. I mean, a lot of these people don't understand the history of the Jesuits, and I find that a lot of people that believe in Zionism send me messages saying, you know, you're wrong and this, that, and the other, and, you know, there's Zionists control the New World Order. And I'd say, well, you know, do you know about the history of the Jesuits? And they don't really know anything, really, at all, about the Knights of Malta or the papal knighthoods, such as Knights of Columbus, that rule America, and the Order of the Garter, and the United Kingdom, which is obviously a royal household order. And, you know, papal knighthoods control the New World Order, but the Jesuits rule over them all. And when I, you know, begin these conversations and begin to explain myself, you know, they don't want to continue the conversation because they have no knowledge. They have no knowledge of the Vatican in history, and they have no knowledge of who the Jesuits really are. They are, you know, organisation that's a military organisation, and their main aim is infiltration of churches, governments across the earth. And, you know, the conversation closes down at that point, and people just move on to a different subject, or they just, you know, they no longer get in touch again with me. But I find that people don't have enough information on the Jesuits, and people need to be informed. If you want to make a decision, I mean, I've looked at Zionism, I've looked at the Rockefellers, I've looked at the Warburgs, I've looked at you know, the Rothschilds, and thoroughly studied their dealings in history, and I do understand their workings with the French Revolution, and, you know, Nazi Germany and communism, and I understand they fund a lot of this. So, you know, I'm not someone's ignorant, and, you know, we have to be informed. We need knowledge. I mean, I could sit here and say Zionism does not control the New World Order, but I need to study Zionism in order to make that statement. People say, well, you don't need to. You know, you do need to. So what I'm bringing out here is knowledge for anybody. Anyone that believes the Vatican controls the New World Order, this message will benefit you. If you've never heard this information, then it really will do you a lot of good to at least understand who the Jesuits are. You know, no matter what your belief system is, whether you believe Zionism controls the New World Order, you know, the black nobility, as in the royal households, or whatever you believe controls the NWO. You need a thorough understanding of the Jesuits. You do. So that's why I'm bringing this out, really. Because I find that a lot of people don't have the relevant information. Because, as I've said, there's a complete blackout on the internet. You know, really, there really, really is. Nobody really talks about the Jesuits, you know, except those who believe the Vatican controls the New World Order. So this message is for everybody, no matter who you are listening to me and what your beliefs are about the New World Order. This is information that you really need to hear. Now, I've got a document here, and it's written by someone called McPherson. In his notes in his book, he says that the Roman Catholic King of Portugal says, It cannot be but that warfare is introduced by the Jesuits, of which the three leading features are falsehood, murder, and perjury. Deprive the laws of their power, destroy the submission of subjects, allow individuals the liberty of killing and lying and forswearing themselves as their advantage may dictate. Now, I have to say here that if you look at the oath of the Jesuits, that's the Jesuit vow or the Jesuit oath. They swear an oath to kill. They do. And it's justifiable because they think they are serving the Pope. And if a king, for instance, a king of a government, and today this does apply to presidents and prime ministers, if they resist the temporal power of the Pope, now this is the Jesuit vow, this is what it says, and then they can be deposed or removed or assassinated by what they call a leaden bullet, that is, a bullet, a gun, poison, and various other manners of assassination. So here the Jesuits take a vow to put to death and kill anybody that will not submit to the temporal power of the Pope. And you also find the Knights of Malta and the Knights of Columbus make an identical oath to the Jesuit oath and vow, whereby they also swear to work with any of the Pope's agents anywhere across the earth. So there is a global network of agents, Vatican agents, around the earth. And when you make the vow to be a Jesuit or a Knight of Malta or a Knight of Columbus, you're actually making a vow to really, be the militia of the Pope. That's what they call themselves in these vows, the militia of the Pope. That is a military order. It's an army. It's a Vatican army. It's worldwide. And their allegiance is not to their governments. Their allegiance is not to their constitutions or their laws. Their allegiance is first of all to the temporal power of the Pope in Rome. Now this is not me just, spinning this is, or, bringing propaganda or disinformation. Anyone can go on Google and type in the oath of the Knights of Columbus, or the oath of the Knights of Malta, or the Jesuit oath or vow. You'll find that everything that I'm saying is correct and can be proven. And you need to understand that most people that control our governments and our intelligence organizations are Jesuits. They are, or Knights of Malta, or Knights of Columbus, and they've taken this vow. Also, a man called McKinley adds his testimony to that of McPherson. It says that this society, which has dared to appropriate to itself the name which is above every name by calling itself the Society or Order of Jesus, deserves rather to be called the Order of Satan. So throughout history, really, people condemned the Jesuits. The kings of Europe expelled the Jesuits constantly. They've been removed from Europe so many times, and the reason why is because of the lying, the deception, their assassinations, their intrigues and infiltrations. I'm going to read from a secular historian called W.E. Lunt, L-U-N-T, whose text was used for years in American colleges and universities, and they recognized the conspiracies of the Jesuits, and I'll read as follows, quote, "In this development, the English Catholics had no small part. They were not a serious political menace until 1580, when two Jesuits came to England and began to plot with the Spanish ambassador to place Mary on the throne. From that time, Catholic plots were continually being hatched. Some had as their method a rebellion aided by foreign invasion, while others sought their object by the simple mode of Elizabeth's assassination. None of the plots succeeded. Walsingham laid bare the plots and arrested several of the Jesuit conspirators." Now the Jesuit order became so powerful and dangerous and overbearing and oppressive that they were disbanded and they were suppressed by none other than the Pope himself. In 1773, Gian Gelini, who succeeded Clement, issued a papal bull in which he declared them suppressed and extinct. He actually destroyed the Jesuit order and the statutes annulled. They remained suppressed for 40 years, but in 1814 Pope Pius issued a bull solemnly re-establishing the society under the constitutions of St. Ignatius Loyola. Now most people on the internet today talk about the Bilderbergs, also the Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, and they talk about the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and how they control the New World Order. But they do not identify the Vatican. It is obvious that very few people know anything really about the Jesuits today. So I'm going to look at this organisation and give you some relevant information on this. If you just bear with me, I'm going to give you some facts about it. The Jesuits. There are several steps through which every well-trained Jesuit has to pass before he has graduated from his training, and they are called the spiritual exercises. Now, these were undertaken with the object of inducing, among other things, a state of complete subjection of the will to the Jesuit general, the Black Pope. If the trainee passed the first test, the trainee Jesuit was invited to become a novice, and from this time on he is excluded from all earthly friends and is to have no will of his own as to his plans for his future. He is to put himself in the hands of his director as the interpreter of heaven towards him. Complete obedience is a thing that is absolutely required here by the Black Pope, the Jesuit general. His conscience, that is of the trainee Jesuit or the novice, must never assert itself in opposition to his superiors. Absolute destruction of the individual will and conscience is aimed at. Now, if the novice is found to possess the right qualities, he is accepted as a scholar. This is what's called a weeding out process, and it continues all through the entire program. Only the most really dedicated make it through to the final stages of the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits. And this scholar now undergoes a protracted course of training in various branches of knowledge. Attention is paid to the cultivation of a sound physical makeup. If this scholar is able to meet the requirements of the stage, he becomes a coadjutor. Those who attain this rank are to devote themselves wholeheartedly to the advancement of the Society of Jesus, and they serve as priests, missionaries, teachers, and businessmen for the society. The next is what's called the ecclesiastical ladder, which is a group called the professed Jesuits. They are composed of a small proportion of the coadjutors, who have proved themselves and have been tested as to the complete trustworthiness regarding the aims of the Society of Jesus. It is from this group the officers of the society are drawn. They are the ones who are entrusted with its secrets. Watch care is another important part of the society. Each member, including the general, is responsible to another. Now, the Jesuits, or the Society of Jesus, their motto is to the greater glory of God. That is, everything that they do is for the glory of God. But when they say the glory of God, what the Jesuits really mean is the undisputed dominion of the Roman Catholic Church, or the temporal power of the Pope. Now, the methods of the order are well known. In most cases, the Jesuits deny the charges against them, but it has been charged that they infiltrate into places of power and politics, using their watchword, the phrase which is "the end justifies the means." They will do whatever is necessary. Whatever is necessary. And they deny such actions, but that's just a cover. Their methods of operation are, disinformation, infiltration, and assassination. To this day, the Jesuit oath remains exactly the same as it has done for hundreds of years. Now, openly, the Jesuits will deny that they assassinate. But they are still tyrants, and they will still assassinate. And they escape prosecution and responsibility. Because, as I've said, they work with the Pope's agents. All around the world, the governments of the earth are organised by papal knighthood orders. As I've said previously in other audios, America is governed by the Knights of Malta and the Knights of Columbus. And the Knights of Malta do work in Great Britain, but ultimately the Order of the Garter oversees the whole papal structure in Great Britain. And also, I've highlighted in other audios that Great Britain, its centre of power, is really Stonyhurst. It's a Jesuit university In America, it's Georgetown University. It's a Jesuit military fortress, which is what they really are. They're not universities, you know. They're centres of political power for that nation. And they also rule over all the Grand Lodges, Mother Lodges, and Grand Orient Lodges. Also, America is governed by Fordham Jesuit University, and we have to understand that these are the militia of the Pope. They are a military army. They're not a priesthood. That is a cover. That is a cover. Okay, you know. And so, Fordham Jesuit University is another military fortress in the United States, which governs American politics and the Masonic political organization that rules America. If you look into the Third Reich in Nazi Germany, Heinrich Himmler used the Jesuit exercises and the Jesuit order as a model for his dreaded black uniformed SS. And in Hitler's Germany, the SS swore a special oath of loyalty to the Führer, just as the highest order of the Jesuits swore a special oath of loyalty to the Pope. And, you know, Hitler once actually quoted that. He said, "I see in Himmler our Ignatius of Loyola." They were building a Jesuit order within the Third Reich, and that is what the SS, you know, were. They were trained by the Jesuits, and I'm not going to go too much into history. I'm going to move on with this message. I'd just like to give you a quote now from John Adams. John Adams was the second president of the United States. He wrote in a letter to Thomas Jefferson, "If ever there was a body of men who merited eternal damnation on earth and in hell, it is this Society of Loyola, the Jesuits." You find in American politics that most vice presidents are trained by the Jesuits at Fordham or Georgetown University. Most Secretary of State, you know, most governors, most people that are in high positions of power in the Pentagon, the CIA, the Federal Bureau of Investigation are actually trained at Jesuit universities. This has been going on for at least, you know, 60 years now, you know, at least, and this is how they do it, you know, this is how they do it. Most of these politicians are actually Jesuit trained, and, you know, they are obedient to Rome. You know, they serve the Pope, they serve the Black Pope. Now, I think it's important to emphasize here that really it's the Black Pope that controls the White Pope. You know, the Vicars of Christ, the, you know, bishops of Rome, the popes are nothing but, you know, figureheads really for the Jesuit order. It's the Jesuits that really do control the Vatican, and they will never ever really want to be, you know, exposed to the light of day. They will always remain in darkness, and that is the truth, you know. And they hate the light. They hate the light. Anything to do with Protestant Bible-believing Christianity, they hate, you know. And they will always remain in darkness. They will always remain in secrecy and, you know, mystery. And, you know, they will always work through front organizations, as I've said previously in other audios, such as Zionism and Freemasonry. And yet they control, you know, the whole Masonic structure over the earth. And, you know, politics and, you know, governments around the earth are not ruled by Westminster or the United Nations or even the White House in Washington, D.C. They're ruled from Jesuit universities. Now, it seems to me that most of these people on the internet that expose the New World Order are completely either ignorant of the Jesuits, their history, or they are actually working for the Vatican. There can only be two answers, really, you know, when you think about it. They're either ignorant of the history of the Jesuits, or, as I've said, they are working for the Vatican. That's it, you know. And most Americans too, and well, I'm from Britain, most people from Britain, most people in general, are ignorant of the Jesuit order. And the fact that there's millions have been put to death throughout history by the intrigues of the Jesuits working through governments. The Jesuit conspiracy is not a conspiracy, it's a fact, it can be proven, okay? There are many conspiracy theories on the internet. This is not one of them. And if you study church history, you know, you see the Jesuits really are the ones who would overthrow governments and monarchs, kings and queens, because they wanted Catholic kings and queens upon the throne. And once they were established, they would persecute Protestant Christianity. And that's why during the Inquisitions and after the Reformation, millions of Protestants were put to death by the Jesuits. They are the militia of the Pope. And they have not changed today. They're still the same. Now, what the Vatican does is it controls the Federal Reserve, and the Vatican Bank controls all banks, and that control, also includes the Bank of England and also, to have influence in politics, you have to be a Roman Catholic, really. And there's a lot of people who can be high-level Freemasons, but they're still Catholic politicians and serve the Roman Catholic Church. And, the Vatican's vast financial empire covers the entire planet. They are the wealthiest organization on the earth. And the Jesuits are involved today in intrigues and assassinations at the highest levels of the United States government. And now what I'm sharing with you is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm dealing, mainly with America, but to give you some facts here, because, I want you to understand that they're not my theories. These are things that can be proven with evidence. Joseph Kennedy, the father of John F. Kennedy, was a Knight of Malta, and his son John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated in Dallas, was 4th degree Knight of Columbus. And if you look at George Bush Jr., he is a Knight of Columbus, as his brother Jeb Bush is. They're also high-level Freemasons. Jeb Bush is a Sun Knight, which that means he's progressed through the 4th degree, and his father is a Knight of Malta. And Prescott Bush, his father, obviously there's evidence for his working with the CIA and obviously, OSS, and funding the Nazis, and that money came also from Zionist families like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Warburgs. But there is a system in place that governs world politics, and that system has been in place for a long time, and there already has been a one world government. And you find that high-level Freemasons govern Great Britain, they govern America, and that's the reality. Most presidents of the United States have been high-level Freemason Shriners of the Scottish Rite, of the York Rite, and they've been Knights of Malta also. And okay, I don't want to get off my subject, but I had to explain that because a lot of people think the Jesuits are just a Catholic organization and that's where it ends. It doesn't. They are political and they are military, and their ambition is twofold, as I've said: to destroy the Protestant Reformation, and they do that through the ecumenical movement. And the second agenda is the temporal power of the Pope. That is to bring all governments under the authority of the Pope, who is crowned as King of Kings. I'd just like to add information that I normally always share with my audios, that the CIA was created by Wild Bill Donovan. He was a high-ranking Knight of Malta. And so, the OSS, the CIA, was created by a Vatican Papal Knight of Rome. So here we have the Jesuits working right in the heart of the Vatican American Empire. The Vatican is an octopus, and its tentacles of Vatican power structure spread throughout the world. Men come and go, politicians come and go, presidents come and go, prime ministers come and go, governments come and go, administrations come and go. But the organization of the Jesuit global conspiracy always remains in place, and it always will, And it took 1,000 years for the Vatican to, have its one world government. And you find a lot of the time that, popes in history have been assassinated or poisoned. That's the Vatican, the Jesuits' favourite, method of assassination is poison. And, even the popes of Rome have no control of the Jesuits. They're terrified of them. They must do exactly as they are commanded by the Black Pope. The current Black Pope is a man named Adolfo Nicholas. He is the superior general of the Jesuits. And the Jesuits are based at the Church of JESUIT in Rome, and they are the real masters of the New World Order, the Black Popes. The Jesuits are still the ones who, work through both sides in a war. For instance, in communism and Nazism, and through Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, and Mussolini. It was the Jesuits who trained these leaders. Joseph Stalin, it's known that he was trained at a Jesuit university in Russia, and even Karl Marx, he was trained by the Jesuits at the British Museum, and Lenin and Trotsky were obviously funded by the Jesuits, that can be proven, and Adolf Hitler was trained by Cardinal Pacelli, who later became Pope. And obviously, you find also that the Freemasons, are always infiltrating governments to prepare the way for the temporal power of the Pope. Now, I'm not trying to make this confusing. All I'm trying to say is there is a structure in place, and it consists of the Black Pope and the Jesuits. And the Jesuits rule over, the Knights of Malta. And the Knights of Malta rule over World Freemasonry. And it's really World Freemasonry, as I've said many times in other audios, that keeps this whole structure together. And that includes the black nobility, as in the royal houses of Europe. They're all in papal orders. Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, the Constantinian Order of St. George, the Constantinian Order, and the Knights of Gregory, the Knights of St. George, the Knights of the Order of Christ. You have the Order of the Garter, you have the Knights of Malta, the Knights of Columbus. There's many more, but I'm not going to name them all because that's not the point of this. But you find that the royal households of Europe are knighted in the papal knighthood orders, and some of them I've just mentioned. They're ruled over by the Pope, and the Pope obviously is the Grand Master of Freemasonry. That's the truth of it. But the figurehead is the Duke of Kent. He's actually from the Order of the Garter, and he's obviously a member of the House of Windsor in Great Britain, and he is based at the Grandmother Lodge in London, and he is supposed to be the official Grand Master of Freemasonry worldwide, but he's not. The Pope is. The structure of Freemasonry is a Masonic. I'll just give this information again because it might help people listening. That if you look at Freemasonry, okay, and I'll end with this because it's getting on to 32 minutes, so I'll finish this subject and I'll bring a close. Okay, so right, if you look at Freemasonry, you look at the orders, the knighthoods. They're all knighthoods, Knights of the Red Cross, Knights of Malta, Knights Templar, all knighthoods. All the degrees are knighthoods. And once you realise that, then you're aware of it. Albert Pike revealed clearly in the Morals and Dogmas that the lower level Freemasons are given false interpretations of symbolisms. They're given Babylonian, Egyptian, interpretations which are deception. The Vatican revelations, the symbols of the knighthoods, and it's a Catholic organisation, as I've said. But the Jesuits really do rule over the Pope, and they really do rule over world politics. And as I've said, Freemasonry really keeps the whole structure together, glued together, firmly in place, throughout the world. It doesn't matter if they're if it's the government in Israel, or whether it's the Israeli Mossad intelligence organization, or Washington DC with the CIA and the FBI and the Homeland Security and NSA. It doesn't matter. They're all high-level Freemasons, even in Britain. With the MI6, SIS. But there's a very select few that are initiated in the high degrees of Masonry, and when they are, they come through the Knights of Malta, and ultimately, reach the Knights Templar, and then that revelation, the real revelation of the New World Order, is revealed to them, and they are initiated in the high degrees of Jesuitism. And it's revealed to them really that the Black Pope controls the one world government and the papal New World Order. Okay, I'm going to end this, but that's a lot of information on the Jesuits. There's a lot more I could share, but I don't want it to go on for 40 minutes, an hour. I think I'll just end this now, and thanks for listening. And I'd like to bring a conclusion here. As always, I will always give this website because it is one of the best. Well, I'll give two websites here. The first I will give is a website called, that's for further research if you want to look into this subject more, about the Jesuit global conspiracy. Right. His name is Eric John Phelps, and his website is called VaticanAssassins.org. Excellent website, excellent research. Go in the article section, and you'll be amazed at the the real New World Order that is exposed. And the next website is by Craig Oxley. Craig is based in England, and he's got an excellent website. He's got a forum there, and you can share views, and you can also look at his research, and he explains a lot about the papal knighthood orders, because people talk about the Illuminati bloodlines and how they're royal bloodlines and black nobility, but really the real hidden bloodlines are the papal, Roman, Italian bloodlines. And Craig exposes that. He does a great job on his website, and go on it and understand that all roads lead to Rome.